should start. Has it started? Are we live? Can you hear us, Mother? Who said that? Whose catchphrase was that? Maybe Jimmy Clitheroe or someone.
Was it George Formby?
George Formby. Someone from the music hall days. Speaking of music halls, I haven't started the programme yet. Some tickets still available if you want to see former Wales Rugby Union coach Warren Gatland. He's on tour. He's coming to Leeds. I think we may have sold more tickets to some of our dates on the World Cup tour. Didn't make as much money, I don't think, as Warren Gatland.
So is he coming to the back room at the Cow and Trumpet, or...?
He's going to the City of Writers, where all the greats... I've seen Ken Dodd there. Paul Daniels, Warren Gatland, famous entertainers. I mean, he's made Wales as rugby talent.
How I got sacked mid-season. Welcome
to the podcast. It's 4020 Live. It's the American special. I'm dressed as an American, not Keith Flint from The Prodigy. There's one for the teenagers. Paul, he's already passing on those tickets. Well, Paul, you and pretty much everyone else in Leeds. It's Vegas week. We're not in Vegas. Everyone else
we are the only two not in Vegas.
Which is great. I can't wait for the Zoom calls later in the week where we're the only people on asking questions because everyone is there. Canberra are there already, which is good.
Canberra have arrived and are already apologising.
Yeah. Warrington, they've set off.
I think Warrington are there, but without
their coach.
The guy who's supposed to be sitting in the front seat.
It's odd, isn't it? Because there's all the... I don't know how administration works, but you would think if you're going to America and you need a working visa because you're working there, not going on a tour, you can't just pretend you're on a... What's he called? Jeff Toovey at Bradford. Sam Burgess is the actual coach.
Yes.
He is the coach. He does the press conferences and everything.
Gets paid to be...
Saw him on the telly.
Man in charge.
He points and he's got Richard Marshall sat next to him. Is he in charge on? Is he in charge on Saturday?
I presume him or Martin Gleeson.
So
I think the feeling is that Sam will get a later flight. Right. His visa will be granted.
Why haven't they sorted this out before? I mean, surely. When did we know we were off to Vegas? Well, not us. We're not going. But...
months.
Months.
Went the Hard Rock Cafe announcement.
Oh yeah, of course. And. Bureaucracy does take time sometimes.
It does.
It's very quick to get a passport. I was surprised how quick it was, but I got a passport.
I have to say I'm very excited.
I'm going to stay up all night and then not. I might fall asleep during Leeds Castleford.
Well, you might have done anyway, to be fair. But...
You might do, but which would be even worse because you're there. But it is exciting.
I just think the prospects are intriguing. So
we've got the negative thing out of the way now because whether Sam's there or not, Wigan Warrington's going to happen and all the other games.
I've seen the Warrington itinerary today of everything they've got planned for the week. For the media, for the fans, lead up to the game. It looks fantastic. The fan zones look brilliant. I think there's a genuine hope that this might have a legacy value to it, and it's not that all of a sudden every American will suddenly go, what have I been doing for all these years? I need to have rugby league in my life. I think that wasn't an American accent. No. I think it's more to do with the fact that the profile of the sport will be greatly enhanced. Sky are clearly putting a lot of resource into this because it's something different. It's a week that involves their coverage of Super League, but it's different. It looks different. It feels different. There's cross promotion. We can talk about, suddenly Roy Keane's our most famous celebrity fan. Micah Richards is singing songs on the football coverage. But all of that wouldn't have happened if we weren't going to Las Vegas.
No. It's like it's Barcelona on steroids because Barcelona got some public imagination because rugby league had never been played at the Camp Nou and then it had and everyone's like, oh, what's this? And now we're going to Vegas and it's going to be a big crowd and it's a big week of build up and it feels a bit not quite like the Super Bowl in terms of build up, but it's got that feel of there's something happening every day on the build up to these games happening.
And the likelihood is 2 different teams will be going next year.
Wakefield and Cass, we're going.
I know. Mr. G. Hetherington is flying out there to see what's happening. So you'd think that Leeds are working out whether it's financially viable for the clubs to go because Warrington, I think we're very keen to be seen to be progressive. Wigan have given up a home game, so clearly there's a cost implication in that. But the ability to network at high table with the NRL, who for the 4th year running have released record profits. Stories now of them wanting to buy into things, have even a little bit more credence about them. It won't necessarily be Super League, but they're making the right sort of noises. So you're going to get Peter V'landys chatting directly to Rodri Jones is out there, Chris Radlinski.
I mean, what a week for Rodri. He was at Wakefield on Thursday, and now he's going to the Leeds Stadium. I guess everywhere, doesn't he? I mean, I'm sure he was impressed with the Wakefield Stadium. Now it's great, but we'll talk about that later.
But there is a feel that this is the right meeting point for Rugby League to decide how it moves forward. More in a sense of together, we might even get the venues and dates for the Ashes series coming out.
What, Everton, Wembley, and Ellen Road or something? Per many 3 of about 4 or 5 suggestions.
Throw in Newcastle, possibly.
Newcastle, yes.
And Wigan.
Wigan.
But the interesting thing is that the feel good factor is real. It isn't just Wigan and Warrington are playing in Milwaukee, England and New Zealand are playing in Denver. There's no thought as to what impact that will have going forward. I can remember, because I'm old enough, 1987, State of Origin had a 4th game in Long Beach, California. And we waited for the tapes to come into our local video shop, and we watched it, and it was all really exciting, and nothing happened. No. Because there wasn't a plan. I think this is part of a bigger plan. I think the Americans are being sold the idea of, you think the NFL's finished, wait till you see this. That's a great marketing ploy. I think to already know that you're going back for 3 years after this, you are creating an audience. I don't know how many people are going to be there, but I think they're looking between 55 and 60,000. 15,000 possibly from the UK,
wow,
covering the 2 teams and neutrals that want to go as well. We've got the list of some of the other clubs that would want to, Hull KR have come out, St Helens have come out, Catalan I think would want to be there. If Hull are as ambitious as we think their new owners are, I think they'd want to be part of it. This is a way of elevating our competition.
How many? 92 Ashes tour. Thousands of British people went
10,000.
10,000. So this is a one-off thing rather than a long tour, but still.
There are already fans talking about hoping their club will be part of it in the future, because they'll go if they are.
There is the gap in the post-NFL season, spring-summer, before it comes back with the pre-season games in late summer, autumn, for a handling code to be seen on television. I'm not talking about a live product, I'm talking about a television product.
And it's very clever that it's only a couple of weeks after the Super Bowl, which means that all of that is still fresh in the mind. And I think the idea is clearly gambling money on one hand, game's relatively simple to understand, which doesn't mean it's simple to play, but the basic rules are very much on the line with NFL. You have a certain number of downs, then you give the ball away. You can't pass forward, you can only pass back. You need to get over a line to score. It's like not a million miles away from what they already understand.
Well, I always say we are closer to that than we are to the beauty.
But I also think that you're right, it's the television market. It's the fact that will Americans subscribe to watch NRL.com or Super League Plus because they've seen something they quite like, and on whenever it is in their time zone, Saturday afternoon, they go, well, there's no NFL, I'll watch that rugby.
Might accidentally sell some merchandise as well. Which I think is why Steve Mascott's there.
Yeah, he's taken suitcases of stuff.
And hopefully coming back with empty suitcases.
But no, I think it's really exciting, and it is a more visionary reason for going than we've sort of had for one-offs in the past.
5 Live are doing commentary, I think. Or it's going to be on BBC Sounds side there. Talk Sport are doing commentary on it. So
they're taking Talk Sport are doing all 4 games. It's all through the night rugby league.
Taking the Triple M commentary of the other games. So it's all. I love it when a plan comes together, as Mr. T would say.
I also think that we're going to be negotiating with Sky in the not too distant future for the next TV contract. They are likely to be, even though it would be lovely to think DAZN or whoever would put in a huge bid, but they are likely to be the major broadcast partners come the negotiation, and they're putting money into the sport because they can see something. Whereas I think previous negotiations, it'd been, well, what are you going to give us that's going to look different? Pretty much nothing. In fact, probably less than nothing, because London aren't in the top flight anymore.
I mean, it's interesting. Not only are the NFL going to Melbourne in 2026,
Going to
2
Dublin.
seasons' time, going to Dublin. They're off to Madrid as well. They're going to the Santiago Bernabeu, the home of Real Madrid. So they're going everywhere. I think they're in Germany again, obviously at Wembley and at Spurs as well. So,
but that is global sport.
That's how you
these
do
days.
it. So maybe in the future we'll take some games to Vegas and maybe some to New York or something. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be nothing.
The
But
nice thing is,
start.
I think we possibly said it last time we discussed Vegas. There's a 5-year deal to be in Vegas, and then what do? Have you created a sporting product that other big cities will want to bid for? And some of those may be in America, or they may be in different parts of the world, but it allows you. Boxing at the moment has a second home, if you like, in
Saudi Arabia. It's all there,
and they're making a go of it, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's not a natural bedfellow, but they want sporting events. The boxing promoters and the broadcasters have seen that it works for them. It's become a big deal. I mean, I didn't watch any of the card at the weekend, but you couldn't not hear about it. Who's to say that Riyadh won't bid for this particular festival?
Who is to say? I mean, it's all exciting. This is the thing. We're in a completely different market for sport now than we've ever had before, because of this money coming in from places who wouldn't have been interested before, as you're saying, something like boxing, and now
but I also think
throwing millions and millions of dollars at it.
The NRL are saying that they're hoping that if the crowd is at the level that they hope it will be at, this second version of the Vegas Festival, or whatever we need to call it, will break even.
And the Nines are coming up.
That would be amazing. Yeah, there's Nines.
That's been broadcast on YouTube, I see, and USA Greece.
There's 2 men's games and 1 women's game of USA Greece. There's the Combine. The Nines is involved something like 4 groups, and there's teams coming from all over the world. There's Masters. Shout out to our friends,
Nicholas,
friends from Canada who are taking a Masters team. Part of the Nines is the Canadian under-19s for the men for the first time that they've played. Never mind toured together. So I just think it is going to be a genuine rugby league festival in Party City, and it's a concept that will transfer. In 5 years' time, we might be in New Orleans, down Bourbon Street, or we might be in Dallas, where apparently JR was shot.
Big hats and stuff.
Yeah, 10-gallon hats. Or we might be in Canada. We might be back in
Toronto, the Sky Dome or whatever it's called.
But there's a reason for doing it, isn't there? And it would make sense to go to Toronto, because you've already got probably X thousand rugby league followers who've been starved of the game, but clearly found something that they really love to support. So yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a really big week for the sport. I'm pretty sure Wigan and Warrington will put on a show. Penrith are there, who again,
they're quite good.
They can sell as these 4-time champions. I think New Zealand Warriors being there opens up that Pacific market that's in that part of America. That's really important, and they will not have seen a ferocity of women's contact sport like England and the Gillaroos will be. There will be no quarter asked, given or taken. They'll see brilliant skill, but they'll be looking at it going, they're beating the hell out of each other.
Speaking of Vegas, -28 the Australians at the moment.
I thought that was the temperature then. I need to answer the door.
Oh, you need to answer the door. I'll read some comments from the YouTube. Hello, YouTube viewers. And if you listen to the podcast and watch us live every week, we might as well need to read something that someone said about Phil last week on the comments. Carson's had trouble logging into Super League Plus. I hope you got it sorted, Carson. I was trying on Saturday to watch the Salford Leeds game because I was on the radio, and I couldn't get it on the Sky Sports app on my laptop. I had to watch it on my little phone. I was like, what's going on here? Can't see what's going on. So it's a bit of a pain, isn't it? But hopefully... Oh, you got it working since Friday, so well done, Carsten. Nick says, Everton, Etihad and DIY Kitchen Stadium is not the plan for the Ashes. Yes. Bring them back to Wakefield for the first time since 1990. We can recreate the Harry Gratian, Bobby Fulton thing again. Should make a film of that. I always think that, but we haven't done it yet. Nick says NFL fans really like rugby league. Rugby union confuses them, but once they get their head round passing backwards but running forwards, NFL fans love rugby league. It's simple, isn't it? It's simple. It's an easy concept. Kevin hopes there's going to be a big crowd and Big Sam has to be there. Well, hopefully he will be. Mark says, looking forward to Vegas. Fly on Thursday. Interesting whether the stadium will be well occupied throughout or like magic with fans not watching old games. All the British people are going to be there all day, aren't they? I thought they've gone all the way there.
I think there's a no exit policy as well. So once you're in, you're in.
Carson is talking to people about going to Vegas, but not Castleford. Kevin says that Toronto makes sense. Beautiful city too. Niagara Falls not too far away. Don't let the players go there though, just in case after what we're saying. Phil says he wish he couldn't have seen the Salford game. Well, just try watching on a laptop. So there you go. That's everything. Two days, 4 games per day. 2 games of Queensland versus New South Wales and 2 of Yorkshire, Lancashire. No. We can do better than that.
What's this? People are already trying to dream up new formats. There's nothing quite like rugby league.
We were saying that we think Vegas is a 5-year project, and if it takes off in the way that we're hoping it will, it might become a marketable commodity for other cities. So we've postulated some that might be interested.
The NFL don't bring the AFC versus NFC All Stars, do they, to Wembley?
No.
The buzz the Vegas event is creating is a real insight. Look at Catalans when they played Wigan at the Camp Nou in 2019. It attracted 31,000 people and created a buzz. We need to be taking games to iconic venues.
But we didn't capitalise on that, did we? Because Catalan hasn't been back.
Somehow, thanks to the hard work of, what's he called? Chris Ralinski, that's it. He's the one. Of emailing Peter Vlandis and saying, can we come and play some rugby, please?
But also, and let's face it, Aussies generally are quite insular. The expansion attitude of Peter Vlandis to say, yes, I will not only think that will add to what we're doing, but you might bring the 10,000 people that are going to make the difference.
Well, I was just going to say, it all comes back to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, but actually, they could have been very dismissive. Why do we want Super League involvement? And they go, no, actually, he has been saying consistently, we want a strong Northern Hemisphere Rugby League. Come and be part of it. It's got to be a meaningful game. It's not going to be a friendly. I mean, we saw some teams go over to Australia but play friendlies. It's not quite the same. But also to put the women's game on as well, to realise there's another market there that is potentially untapped and may not bring fans in initially, but certainly will bring television viewers in, potential sponsors. I think it's a really far-thinking move from the Aussies, who genuinely... I read all the stuff about they've just announced their latest 66 Australian
Everyone
billion.
watches NRL and no one watches AFL.
It's the biggest sport in the world. But they're talking about expansion, how they want to invest this money, and that it isn't going to necessarily be all there forever. So they want a legacy, and whether or not they buy into Super League or part of the which again is part of the agenda that they're talking about. The important thing is that they are looking outwardly rather than inwardly.
I think I was reading in the esteemed Forty20 magazine about the tickets that have been sold across the United States itself.
Yeah.
So it's
people from every state are going.
Yeah, which is great.
And that's not including Canada because it's not yet a state of America. And never shall it be.
Love Phil's insight, says Oaksy99. This is on last week's programme. But I wish he wouldn't talk over other people quite so much. Poor John was barely allowed to complete a sentence. Can't read.
That's because I was going deaf in my left ear every time he spoke.
Having said that, he says, I'd love to see John appear more frequently. He adds a lot to the conversation. So thanks to John for that.
Who's on his way to Las Vegas?
Oh dear.
How are you, James?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I love the shirt, by the way. So what's this USA Rugby League?
Well, no, it's
Rugby Union.
It's rugby. So.
Oh dear.
It's appropriate, though.
Yeah, it's entirely appropriate. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't say on it, does it? They don't.
And an appropriate book, I think, is it?
The Americans don't know the difference between rugby union and rugby league, so it's all right. Just to alienate all our American listener. We've got more listeners in Papua New Guinea, so it's
Supposed to be a good read, that, isn't
It
it?
is very good. It's
Yeah.
really
No
well
helmets.
researched.
Have you introduced this already? No helmets required.
It's just kind of like everything on the desk. It's just there for people to.
The remarkable story of the American All-Stars by Gavin Willisey.
Who was on,
Friend of the show.
Yeah, he was on the show when we were in Wigan. Where was it, in Wigan? Ashton?
Yes,
Ashton Library?
Ashton Library. He was one of our panelists.
With Phil Roberts and a million other people.
Andrew Voss.
Andrew Voss was on that one, yeah. Nigel Whisker, just in case he's
So
listening.
you're not going to Vegas, Phil?
We're the only two that aren't.
And you're not going either. So
No, I'm not going.
We have people there covering it for.
Yeah, I'm not even reviewing it.
No.
No.
You know, I thought Ben Taylor had retired. Why is he still doing video refereeing?
He's video refereeing, but he's not on the field anymore. Yeah.
You still hear his voice all the time. It's like, oh, got rid of him, the people say.
Was it my imagination, or were some of the video decisions quicker this week? I don't know if that's a conscious thing, or they're just more obvious.
I think I haven't seen many of the games this week. I reviewed the Castleford game, and I've seen snippets of one or two others, and that's it. So I haven't seen many captain's challenges, if that's what you mean. But
we got one right.
the players
got
one.
Lee got one as
did
well.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen that one. I think so. There was a decision in the Hull KR game in round one. Trying to remember what the decision was now. Oh, it's whether it came off the head or not. And if I'm honest, I think it just took too long.
Yeah.
There is a challenge. So in round one, we had a Catalan at home, and Catalan at home was always going to be tricky with captain's challenge
because of the
French broadcasters.
Yes, getting to the point where can we actually see the incident?
Well, I
Not
think
the 5 minutes before or after.
There has always been difficulty as a video referee in France sometimes to get the footage that you want. Now, usually if it goes in the way of the Catalan team, there is absolutely no problem getting the footage.
It's funny that
Camera
They usually understand English at that point, but then if it's the other way around, they just don't understand. So I think there will be a bit of a challenge. I think there's probably going to be some pressure put on by the clubs, I suspect, around that. But
Thierry's coming back now.
Is he?
As a match commissioner.
Well, this is news to me.
Ah, yes.
Don't know.
He's on his way back.
Right.
The home of news, this programme. That's why people tune in to find out what's going on in rugby league. Answer, nothing. You're a fan of the captain's challenge because it does mean that we can question the authority of the referees, and the referees generally have been proved right.
Yeah, I think when I've seen it operate in the NRL, my only concern is, as a concept, it goes against what a lot of we're trying to do as a game, which is to keep the game flowing. But when I've been out there refereeing, when you make a particular decision, there is sometimes when you think, I think having now made that decision, I've probably got it wrong. And now players have that opportunity. And it was always going to take a few weeks to settle in and for players to work out what to challenge and what not to challenge.
And how and when in a game to do it. Because the other thing is, you might have a huge injustice against you in minute 7, but if you get it wrong and there's a potential match-winning decision in minute 73, and you haven't got your challenge left.
No,
you've got to be quite judicious about when you use it.
That's
as well.
it. And I think in the Castleford Saints game that I watched, there wasn't a captain's challenge in that game. Now it ended up in a one-sided game, and there probably wasn't that much to challenge anyway. In fairness, so I think players will get a little bit more strategic about when they use it. So overall, I think it is a good thing. I think unlike the bunker in the NRL, Super League doesn't have all that same equipment, so therefore it's not going to be quite as slick.
Those video recorders we've still got. We need to. I think there's one of
I think Liam Moore, talking about it before it was first used in round 1, which I think is quoting in there that the referees welcome it because if they have genuinely made a mistake and it can be overturned for all the right reasons, then they're not going to say, "Oh, we're being undermined." It's more we're saying, "You're helping us out."
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
But it just seemed to speed up in week 2 a little bit.
Yeah, maybe
it,
referees will have to get used to it. Video referees will have to get used to it. The operators who are operating the technology will have to get used to it, etc. So there's always going to be a little bit of a bedding in phase. So it also depends on the decision. Some decisions are going to be much easier than others. If you've got to break that decision down into elements where are they onside first, you've got to clear that into another element of the decision.
So there was one in round 1 that I was going to ask you where the actual challenge for the incident was successful, but then the team who had the successful challenge knocks on, so it was deemed unsuccessful. But actually, surely they should have kept their challenge.
Yeah, there was some debate about that and the honest answer is I don't know where that debate completed. So in the NRL, I've seen an example of the same scenario ruled the same way as Super League did on round 1.
Right.
So you would expect in one way, it should be consistent. We've adopted the system that the NRL have. We should probably follow what they do. That said, I'm a little bit with you. It seems illogical that the decision, if you challenge the decision, is proven to be an incorrect decision by the referee. You should retain your challenge.
Yes, that's
but the game should have then restarted. I can't remember which way around it was. It was a knock on the floor by Hooker, was it?
Yeah, it was a one-on-one ball steal or something.
No, it was a pass that hit the head.
Yeah,
hit the head rather
right.
than the hand. And then there was a knock on the floor. So the game should restart with whatever the error was at the end by the player. So it should have been a scrum, but they should have retained the challenge.
Yeah.
Is my view, but I don't know what the outcome of the debate was as to which way they've landed on that.
Mark's asked if you remember your approach to the captain's challenge during the World Cup.
I saw that comment, or heard that. I did listen to the podcast last week, and
did John get a word in?
I think. I think somebody said that, or I read it somewhere anyway, that somebody said there was, or it might have been on Twitter, that somebody said I made this passing remark and it was a joke. I can't remember saying it, so I think the stats have probably proven it in the last couple of weeks. There hasn't been many successful challenges, has there? Maybe 2 then in 2 rounds, and that probably will improve from the player's perspective.
It will.
I think, as I said, I predicted that there would probably be some inconclusive challenges as well.
Yeah.
I think we've probably seen some of those in Catalan, I think, in week 1. Again, I didn't watch that game. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the reality is match officials generally do make the right decision.
Yes, and that's reinforcing that is not a bad thing.
No, I don't think so. And look, if there's something there to get the right decision for the sake of the game, anybody's going to welcome that.
We can't have all the camera angles because we need one focusing on famous people in the crowd just in case they react to something. So we can't have everything.
Well, I did notice something last week on Sky where they put a live shot
in the yes.
the
Well,
end,
they should do that,
which is so much better.
Yeah, split screen.
Yeah.
We've been screaming for that for years.
Carson's full of praise for the Aussie video ref. He gets reviews really crisp and short. To which Phil says, "That's James Feller." So there you go. It's a good job there's only one Australian, so we know who they are.
I just think they were particularly decisive. They didn't need to see angles that already confirmed what they'd already seen, and that was quite refreshing.
Gary says this is the first step of the NRL taking over Super League. He's a Widnes fan. I mean, they're top top with Halifax and Bradford of the Championship. They could be in Super League in the future.
I think there is a mounting evidence to say that the NRL can see the game reaching the level they want it to get to if they can promote things like an Ashes series and the World Club Challenge in the knowledge that the game over here is getting to be stronger, if never quite as strong as it is in the Southern Hemisphere with their access to the Pacific nations as well. So I do think that it is the start of discussion. Where that will end, I genuinely don't think anybody knows at the moment. But Peter V'landys was very, very careful in this interview he did, talking about the money that they'd earned and what they were going to do with it. And he did say, yes, we might be prepared to invest in Super League, but if they ask us to. And there's a bit of dancing going on at the moment, but nobody's actually asked anyone to join hands or anything like that. I think they're playing a game, and I think they would use intermediaries to decide exactly what a deal would look like and how it would work and what a season would look like, to make sure that we were all aligned and which products would be part of the deal. So, would the Challenge Cup be part of it? Would that be a domestic arrangement? But the World Club Challenge would be something that perhaps both hemispheres could take. All of that, I think, we've no idea where that debate's going to go. No. But I just think it's exciting that we're having it.
Will they buy Rugby League commercial or the RFL? Well, they can't buy the RFL.
Or would they set up another body? Because this is Rugby League.
I mean, what is there to buy?
Well,
some pens.
It might well be that it would be a new product.
I would have thought so.
Of which clubs would be invited, perhaps more as franchises, to become part of. There'd be obligations on both sides, the money that they would get to be part of it, what they would have to do to be part of it, the fact that there would need to be an expansion element to it, because you could imagine that it would start with maybe 10 teams, but there'd have to be the ability, I think, to get up to 20 at some point. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight, but the Aussies are clearly moving from 17 to 20 over the next few years. They've already got PNG I'm told that Western Australia is not far off being announced. There's another New Zealand franchise have come forward saying they want to represent Mono Pacifica, even though they'll be based in New Zealand. That's great. But once they're at 20, they're into 2 conferences of 10.
Right.
And I think that's what they want in terms of the number of fixtures. So you could see it starting here with a conference of 10, with the possibility of, at some point, if it works, getting to similar over here.
Ian's pointed something out. And of course, we'll see this on Saturday, because there's 4 games which are being played under 3 different sets of rules.
Yep.
Because we've got the Super League rules,
Yep.
we've got the NRL rules, and then these made-up women's international rules, because a women's international is played over 80 minutes.
But they're playing.
Playing over 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Does that still stand as a full international? Is it going to be going in the record books?
It's a very good question. But I do think,
I get my
again,
money back
there's a
if my
start
bet
of formulating common rules if we're playing alongside each other in things like this on a more frequent basis.
I mean, the cynic in me would tell me why England have agreed to play 70 minutes and not 80.
I don't think
Because if we're not playing.
I don't think it'll do them any harm. And the good thing is that they are attuned to playing 80 minutes, so if they pack that into 70, it does even out the fitness element of it.
Although having not played 80 minutes for how many months? A few months.
It's going to be a tough ask for England.
Yeah.
It is, but I do like what they're saying. I think they're not claiming anything other than they're going to go in there and give it their best shot, and I think they will.
When we've got the press conference on Zoom later in the week, we're not going to say to anyone from England, "Are you going to win? Are you going to win?" Because it's a stupid question to ask, because they can't answer it saying no.
But the only way to improve is to play the best team, isn't it?
And we haven't played them since 2017.
To be honest,
apart from 9.
the Gillaroos have never got on a plane to America before, so it's all going to be pretty new to them. I think they also are. They're incredibly skillful and physically fit, but they haven't had contact for a few months, and that will take a little bit of getting used to.
And they've lost their coach.
I think that was engineered.
The women's international, it says here, over here in the UK, hasn't been pushed by Sky Sports, which has been disappointing. The RFL should also be pushing their international women's team. It's an iconic test. I think the RFL have been doing plenty. I can't criticise the RFL.
No, I think part of the problem with that is it's on at 2:30 in the morning, so it's a limited amount of promotion you can do for it. I think the people that, like us, that are probably foolish enough to stay up all night and watch it, know it's happening and when it's happening. You're not staying up all night.
I won't be staying up to watch it. No way.
Go listen to the interviews that were on YouTube that we did the other week. So, and I'm sure there'll be. We'll see what happens this week. Is it International Week this week in football, or is it the FA Cup or something? There's something.
I don't
So maybe there will be. When people are out in Vegas, there'll be some more stuff. I'm sure if Sky is sending people to Vegas, they will speak to Jodie Cunningham et al. Ahead of the game.
I have a feeling that this will resonate way beyond. And I noticed that today all of our social media was full of Roy Keane says rugby league's a great sport.
They're only doing the jobs.
And I'd love to go to Vegas. That I felt reading it that we were being a bit needy. It's like, somebody famous likes us.
Well, in the way that we
I think it's great that he does, but there was a core of that Manchester United team that really did like rugby league.
Wayne Rooney's a Leeds
Rio
fan, isn't he?
Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney, Roy Keane. They've always said they were rugby league fans. So the fact that he says it after one of the really big football games, great. The fact that Micah Richards then breaks into song, great. But like for us, let's not behave this is the biggest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, but he's no Chris Kamara, is he? He's a Wakefield fan, so and Cass have got
I do think
balls, so,
all
the big names.
I think Keane is fantastic, and if he has now expressed a desire to like rugby league, we have to find a way with our Sky connections to physically get him to a game. And
the Luke Littler thing on Friday was a great concept, and it was by and large. In fact, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But by Warrington, executed brilliantly. Well done, Warrington. What we didn't need is Sky interviewing him twice. We didn't need him at half-time being interviewed because he doesn't say much because he's a young lad. He's very good at throwing darts. He's the best in the world at that. He's just earned £500,000.
To be
but
fair,
he doesn't need to come on at half-time.
The
and
best
talk to us
line
again.
out of the second interview was he would rather Warrington won Super League than Manchester United.
Yeah, but
win.
it's more likely, and just imagine that.
Yeah.
Because it's not happening.
I do wonder though from a TV perspective because how many people watch the build-up to a game, and so therefore they're more likely to watch half-time. I don't know, but
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought he was good. I thought the renaming of the physical renaming of the stadium was good.
That whole concept is exactly.
I didn't realise they'd gone to
face
that the trouble of changing the sign. I was quite impressed by that.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly what innovative ideas clubs should be doing. That's PR, that's marketing, that's everything clubs should be doing.
And sorting visas out for their employees to go on.
And everybody, I think, does have a celebrity fan. I think that's.
Are you Dewsbury's?
Is the highest. Yeah, absolutely.
You or Steve-O? No. Steve-O.
Always welcome.
Shouldn't be an ex-player. Ex-players can't be the. Is he the celebrity?
He played. He's from Dewsbury.
Yeah.
It's his hometown.
Liversidge.
They always claim Leeds, don't they? But the Burgesses of Leeds.
No, I thought.
But for what it cost, it wouldn't have cost a huge amount of money, and it would have generated a load of interest, and then build up to Vegas off the back of it. I think it's great.
He's a genuine fan because when he was playing in the Modus Super Series that nobody watches apart from tragic people like me and gamblers, he was wearing the Warrington badge before he was famous on his shirt. So,
no, I think that was great. I think the whole Keane thing is great. I just felt we went a bit overboard as a game, saying,
Roy Keane.
Thank you, Roy.
But at least you can write a story about it for your website and you get a few clicks. So it's good.
But, hopefully Vegas will also get more people coming out going, maybe American celebrities. I know the hope, one of the other thing that
Trump.
that was horrible. That was horrible.
Where's my MAGA hat?
That's where for every good thing you do, there's often a yin and a yang and begging Trump to be there.
I've just got this image. You remember the Paralympics when George Osborne came out and got booed, handing out the bat? That was one of the great moments of the Paralympics. So that could be what happened.
But I think there's some NFL players of high regard going to be there.
Aaron Woods was at the wrestling on Monday. He was on Netflix. They pointed him out in the crowd as a celebrity. Now, granted, the level of celebrity at the wrestling is sometimes a very low level of celebrity, but they put NRL legend up and stuff, which has been questioned by people who know more about the NRL than I.
I think the other aspect of it is we're seeing media interaction, so that Sky are now looking at other sports that they cover to call in celebrities to talk about. Vegas will be big this week on their promotion. I wouldn't be surprised if Formula One mentions it, or there's adverts on while that's on, or one of the drivers might have a link to Rugby League, and I think this cross promotion is massive.
We should have got Jay Bell, as they call him on that programme, and Phoebe to do some analysis of Rugby League.
But Jay Bell did something that when the Super Bowl was on, they did have a Vegas
on
thing,
ITV,
and he had a Steeden ball, and he was saying whatever it was they'd asked him to say. But I think there's massive cross promotion to be done here.
Kevin tells us the breaking news. Luke Litter has also been made an honorary citizen of Warrington as well. I mean, poor lad.
He can drive his sheep over the bridge.
Is he allowed to drive yet?
Just on Sky, what I don't understand is, I can't. I think it was when I turned for the Castleford game on. Oh, Castleford wasn't. They were showing a repeat.
Yes.
A repeat of the Wakefield game on whatever it is, Sky Action or something.
Wakefield, Big Time Wakefield.
And the live game is on Hidden Away in the Red Button. What's all that about?
That's daft scheduling, isn't it? Because you think if you're going to have a live game on the Red Button, stick something else on the other channel, like stick some more, because it's only repeats of anything anyway. Stick some more NFL on.
I don't get. I don't get this. It's almost like it's on a digital channel. Appreciate a lot of people have Sky Sports, but it's then hidden away on a Red Button on Sky Sports, and then you've got a game that's a repeat from.
You're
beyond me.
Right.
Beyond me.
Right. I'm hoping, by the way, that Rob from the What Would Brian Bevan Say podcast is better because he's in hospital at a minute, and he sent me a message saying, "Are you free on Wednesday to cover the podcast?" So hopefully I don't have to do that because I'll probably upset everyone in Warrington. Kevin says the Yanks are going to be amazed by the physicality of women's rugby. But they've got the most famous rugby player in the world. So.
Who's not going to be there?
No.
But has said she wants to play in the NRLW, and again, that is priceless publicity.
Still need an Australian to explain why the W's at the end and not the start, but there you go. Abigail, who is our friend from Rochdale, will be very happy with their win yesterday.
Big win yesterday.
She's staying up to watch the game on Sunday.
Good. Well, I hope she's going to bed early Friday.
And because she tags me in every England player who's got a kit giveaway competition, so we were trying to win kit for her. She won one of Caitlin Beaves's competitions.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's exciting. Don't forget your friends, Abigail. But yeah, so she's still raising money, so that's good. So I think she's raised over £500 now for something to do with Rochdale Hornets, MND, and her junior club going to Wembley. They're the mascots for the Women's Cup final, so they need kit and coats and stuff. So raising a ridiculous amount of money, so well done to her. What did we think of the Super League launch, says Vista Mountains? It wasn't quite like the F1 one, where it was at the O2 and they had all the drivers there and everything, but it was alright.
It served its purpose. I thought the venue was pretty cool. I think to ally us with the biggest indoor arena, and to be going in through the VIP entrance and in the backstage bar and all that. I thought it was good in terms of what we learned and the material that we got from it. Not sure you get a lot when you're actually playing games a few days afterwards that disproves everything everybody says or you predicted.
We've had a great pre-season.
Yeah, we all love each other.
Yeah, well, at least the Brad Arthur interview I did that got on TalkSport was before they played West, but we knew what the result was going to be, so it's over.
But I also think that Brian Carney was a great host.
Well, someone was saying, is he going to Vegas or not?
Yes.
He's going to, because
I think
he was going on and on and on about it at the launch. I think he's upset Jenna, so it's
him and Steve Owen, who is the producer, have gone, and
I
think they're going to be putting content in every day this week into Sky Sports News and video blogs of where they've been and all that kind of thing.
I expect so if Sky's paid their money to go to Vegas.
But the fact that they have is great.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have some video from Vegas if we can get our... We haven't trained him, so I don't know if he can do it or not, but I think he's got an assistant who knows how to do videos.
He's got an assistant who's very good at doing videos.
Yeah. NRL accredited journalist as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Writing a piece for a magazine, so deserves to be there in the press box.
Nepotism Monthly.
Yes.
Abigail's raised £707 now.
Very good.
Kind of a job at the RFL. What's going on?
Well, I was going to say, never mind all this talk of Vegas.
Yes.
The home of Rugby League,
Home
Wakefield.
of Rugby's back. Oh, with
Super
fireworks
League is back.
and
It
fireworks
looked fantastic
and
on
a brass band.
on
They were
Thursday
great.
night. I know the result didn't quite go your way, but
back.
it looked great. And do you know why it looked great? Because the floodlights worked.
After
Well, it's funny because I was listening on the radio. I think it was that game. And they said the floodlights are off or something.
Yeah, they
and
turned them off to do
they're
a
bringing
thing,
the
yeah.
players out. I thought, I hope they come back on. There's a reputation.
That's what everyone thought. But now, after a long exile of a year, Wakefield were back in the big time.
500 days.
I saw that. Yeah, it's like it's not like the last time we were out of Super League for years, but no.
I mean, the stand we knew would look great, and it did. And clearly some of the other groundwork that they've done, which wasn't picked out as much on the telly, but made it a great spectator experience. But the fact that you could actually watch the game on telly and see the corners of the pitch.
It's weird. When you're in the press box now, you can only really not see when people are stood up. Because
When the ball gets kicked high, you can see the ball.
Yeah, I know, because we've got a roof and it's like...
Which you never used to have.
It's weird. But the only downside is, because I used to be good at predicting the crowd, because it's been the same for years, you can't do that anymore. Cause I don't know. I mean, now, when it's full 8,000 apparently, that's 8,065 or something. But yeah, fireworks, brass band, on the telly.
Team played really well, but
didn't win.
Just not quite enough.
Ollie Pratt's now a superstar. Should have passed it outside to Lachlan Walmsley a couple of times, but he's a superstar now.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I genuinely think he's one of the young breed that's coming through at a lot of clubs that we should be cherishing.
Tom Johnston scored. Leg didn't fall off. That's good.
It's funny because
Jack Truman didn't play. I'm still all right.
I went to watch the game when they played Featherstone back in 1997, was it?
The grand
98,
final.
grand final. It was at
Huddersfield.
Huddersfield. Yeah, I was there watching that.
The Garin Casey.
And they talked about the new stadium.
Carl Pratt's forward pass knock on thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they talked about the new stadium, and then it's taken them to be relegated effectively to get a new stand. So it's fantastic to see, and it's good to see the clubs on the up.
To be honest,
really.
it was great that they were playing Hull KR because in a way those are two clubs that have embraced relegation.
Yeah.
And actually, Lee being the other, that have really turned themselves around. And I know IMG get criticised. What do they do and what have they brought to the game? But I think you can look at the likes of Lee, Hull, and Wakefield and say it's under this system where it's absolutely laid out for you what you need to do, and it's not just in the area of. It hasn't stopped them recruiting some great players, but it couldn't just be that.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. I think the IMG system is proving to be a success because of these clubs.
And I think that's why there's some nervousness at Cass, because they know that what they need to do is what they said they were doing last year in terms of their stadium, and not necessarily what they're doing on the field, which is clearly important, getting a crowd in, and that's one of the metrics, and you want to feel that your club is progressing on the field as well. But it's this cloud over their facility that they're going to have to resolve one way or the other, and that's where I think IMG.
But they have got a refurbished changing room. I saw that on.
And a new media room with blankets for the media.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Soft in Cass, aren't they? All mod cons at Wakefield, says Kevin. You don't know the half of it, because in the gents behind the North Stand, which has definitely been there since Queen Victoria was on the throne and smelled like it, they've put a light in there. There is a light in the gents' toilets, which I think some parts of Castleford they haven't got, but at Wakefield we have. How many IMG points for toilet lights?
Running water and lights.
Yeah.
What was the pressed food?
Just loads of it. There was cakes. I had a bit of cake. I was there early to get my seat, which I wasn't sat in my usual seat, but that's because the radio row's there. But yes, there cakes, sandwiches, samosas, all kinds of stuff.
Pizza.
So it's all very concerning. I mean, if the money ever runs out, we wonder what to do. It's no good.
And I think it's great. And I think, again, when to relate it back to what we were talking about, if the NRL do want to come in, and if they do want to cherry pick what they think are the progressive clubs, then to have all that in place elevates you up the food chain.
But the big thing coming out of that game is, what the hell was going on with Mikey Lewis? He does his ankle in, he's going to try, and he was hobbling back from it after a long period down.
Bandaged.
Was he down for about 5 minutes or so? It was a lengthy stoppage, and he hobbles back, and you think he can't play on, but he plays for another 10 minutes or so. Willie Peters says after the game he didn't want to come off, but you've got to at that point say, should be dragging him off. I know you've got no halfbacks, but he can't do it. He can't do anything. He can't kick.
But he might
can't
be
tackle.
doing greater damage to whatever it is he's done.
Very strange. Very, very strange.
Well, it's. I think it's going to come out in the next 24 hours, the extent of his injury, and I think the indications are it's not quite as bad as they had initially feared, but he's clearly going to miss. I would think a few weeks.
I mean, just because a player's in a boot doesn't mean it's a serious injury. It's like when as we saw with Brodie Croft, when they go down, they're told not to move, they're told to stay still, and it looks more dramatic than perhaps it is, and sometimes it isn't. But it just seemed he was hobbling. I can't remember seeing a game where a player has hobbled around the field and you think he can't play on. He can't play on, but he did.
I did it for 25 minutes once, refereeing Castleford against.
I was going to ask you, what was your worst injury?
Crusaders.
Calf.
I refereed at Odsall the week before, and my foot was sore, and I couldn't work out why. So they put somebody on my line with me on the last round of Super League. Cas were losing at half time to Crusaders, and I'd sin-bin Michael Shenton.
Oh.
So you can imagine how popular I was down the lane. But after about 10-15 minutes, my metatarsal in my foot just snapped. And I hobbled around for the next 25 minutes. Anyway, so Ray Tennant, who was coaching then the referees, or involved in the referees, came in the dressing room and basically said, "You're not going back out." And I couldn't even get my boot off. So then the tannoy announcement was going out, obviously, that I'd been subbed. So Ray was telling everybody that he'd take me off because it was that bad. The thing is, people believed him.
Was that the David Beckham injury?
It was, yeah.
Before David Beckham, it was just broken foot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that joke because I'm not. But the punchline is, we just got an orange. Kevin says, decent crowd at Salford, lads, just under 6,000. Carson says, just sad the players didn't turn up. Well, Salford are back now. They've got all the money. So they're rich now, so they can sign all the players. Apart from there's no one available. Apart from
they don't need any players. They've got a great squad.
What happened to was there an investigation?
Well, I assume it's still ongoing, like all these things that the RFL will
well,
hear about.
the normal time for an investigation
6
is
months. Yeah. End of the season. Yeah.
So you were there, Phil. I saw you on the telly.
Did you?
Yeah. Everyone said, "Oh, Phil's on the telly. Look, he's there."
Playing standoff.
Behind Brad Arthur, passing him notes saying, "Do this."
Sub him now.
That Lum fella's good. That kind of thing. How's Matt Frawley's hand?
It's got 8 stitches in it. The I mean, if we're talking about that game, out of the sequence of which the games were played, because
yeah, we seem to
around.
have done now. Yeah.
then I think it was quite obvious that Salford were underdone. The decision to choose a complete reserve team the week before meant that particularly their pack weren't physically at the level that they needed to be. But I was surprised because I thought all of the word around the Salford camp leading into the game was our season starts today. So I was surprised that intensity wasn't there. They scored very early, and sometimes you have the phrase, we scored too early. It was almost like there was a defensive misread. It was a relatively easy try. It almost looked like
Did they score I didn't see the game. Did they score the first try of the game?
Within the first minute.
Yeah, it's always on
the back of a Mark Sneed 4020. So everything for a minute and a half is going their way. The fans are right behind. The Happy Mondays have played, but they couldn't maintain it. Whereas I have to say, I thought Leeds losing 3 spine players during that, one of whom did come back with 8 stitches in his hand. They were particularly solid, very, very impressive from a couple of their young players. I thought Morgan Gannon off the bench was absolutely sensational, even filling in at standoff. And Riley Lum, who'd had a bit of a torrid game against Wakefield the week before in terms purely of his positional play, was absolutely outstanding. Jake Connor did what you would hope from... He didn't try and do everything himself, but the bits that he did were quality. Set up 3 of the tries. And
Phil's a Salford fan, and he says, "I saw it coming." That's why.
Leeds
That's why I took Leeds.
Phil.
He backed Leeds to win 13 plus points. So well done, Phil. At least you made some money. And he said they're Jake Connor's best game in a long time. So he's Jake Connor's back now, and it's consistency for him as well.
Yeah, because he wasn't great against Wakefield.
No,
now it's how he does this week and the week after, and I think the Brodie Croft injury could have unsettled Leeds because he was out for 11 minutes and fortunately was on the sideline for the second half. So I think all his teammates knew he was okay, but they were on top at that time, and you think, that if it's going to affect one of the two teams, Salford regroup, come back stronger. Leeds, it takes a bit of the sting out of them, but it didn't. It's a good performance from Leeds. I think probably a good time to mention it. After week 1, where I think there were 4 of the 6 games were unpredictable, even including Castleford's defeat. No, they could have won it quite easily with a penalty late on, and everybody said it was a much improved performance than they were expecting. So 4 of the 6 games were unpredictable. This week, I think the only result that was unpredictable was probably Leeds, because I didn't hear anybody saying Leeds are going to win at Salford now that they're back. As it turned out, there were reasons why Salford weren't at their best. But most of the games and most of the margins in the games were far more predictable. I hope we can get back to unpredictability of outcome.
Did any of us watch Wigan and Hull?
No.
So we'll upset all the Wigan fans by saying we didn't watch it.
The problem with that was I think Warrington Catalan was a better game to watch as a neutral, but I think once the score started coming in, you thought, I probably don't need to switch over. We already know.
I only watched the second half, and so I put on Warrington Catalan because it was easier to find. I think because I think the other one was on Red Button, wasn't it? And I just thought I can't be bothered. But I also thought it would probably be a better game, and as you said, the score started rattling away.
So you can always take these 2 games together because there's threads running between them. Because Hull last week go to Catalans and win, and it seems fairly comfortably in the end. Wigan, who not fair to say struggled against Lee because they both teams couldn't score a point until the golden point. And then we come to the week after. Wigan are back. Hull are not back to where they were, but they're still a work in progress. We know that, and I think they've got to find that consistency as well.
When Hull looked at the fixtures, the last game they would have wanted was a Wigan team that had lost the week before.
And going into Vegas.
So I think from what I've read and the tries that I've seen highlights of, Wigan were pretty ominous and would probably have beaten anybody. And the shame for Hull is that they had 14,000 people. It was their first home game of the season, and actually they probably could have done with a more winnable fixture with where they are at the moment in their rebuild.
My newest pet peeve, after the word legend has been completely misused now, because everyone's like, we're podcasting legends, we've been doing this 10 years. We have just decided on the iconic 4020 podcast. But the newest word that is overused and means nothing now is classy gesture.
Okay.
Hull gave Wigan a silver salver or something to say well done on winning all the trophies. I don't know where they're going to put it. Maybe, serve some sandwiches. And everyone's like, what a classy gesture from Hull. It's like when Wigan give people a bottle of whiskey. They haven't sent us one yet. When they do, we'll be all over. We'll say Chris Valencia is the greatest person on earth.
I do think it's pretty ominous for the competition that Jai Field looked as good as he did. And Hull have lost Liggy Sow for the season. They're hoping to sign Liam Martin, another Aussie, to replace him. But again, they're trying to find what works best for them. You just can't really afford to lose.
I think what I observed of the few games and bits I saw was it's symptomatic of the teams that struggle with consistency.
Yes.
So you can get up for round one, you can have a big performance like Castleford.
Yeah.
And then they just can't back it up.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody, even a Castleford ardent fan, would have predicted what happened at Hull KR in round one, would they?
No, not after losing in the cup.
And then they weren't great. They weren't great against St Helens. I appreciate St Helens had come off a huge win, but the game was kind of over after probably 10-12 minutes.
Yeah.
They scored 3 early tries, St Helens, and took the game away from them.
I'm really feeling for Danny Maguire at the moment. I mean, I really want him to do well. I want him to be at the forefront of the next generation of young coaches that come through and take the game to the next level. But he's looking so frustrated at the moment, and some of the things he's saying worry me. So
would you put Luke Robinson in that category as well?
No, I don't think so. I just think we spoke about this on here that Castleford making a public apology after losing the cup. So you're already backing yourself down a cul-de-sac a little bit. Then the following week they're fine because they've had a really good game at Hull KR and perhaps should have won it. And this week Danny's calling his pack soft. And I get it's out of passion, it's out of what he wants them to be and what he's trying to make them, but his body language and what he's saying is because he's new into it and he wants to be better. But I do worry that there has to be an understanding both from him and the Castleford fans that in terms of the cost of the squad that they put together and the players that they've been able to recruit, the expectation shouldn't be much higher than being a little bit better than they were last year. That it'd be lovely if everybody thought there could be a top 6 team, but only 6 of them can be. And I don't think it's realistic that Cass are at that point at the moment.
I think it was probably more performance, wasn't it? Because they considered those 14 points early in that first half, but they then steadied the ship and they scored a try. They could have potentially scored another. I was thinking at one stage that Saints, if they're not careful here, have dominated this first half and could go in only being, say, 6 points ahead, and it doesn't reflect the scoreboard, and then they just took the game away from them in the second half. Yeah. But I just think it's more the performance, isn't it? That if you're a fan, you just want to see a little bit of consistency.
But I also think that the effort that they put in at Hull KR, it does take it out of you. It does need managing, and if you've got players that aren't used to that or aren't attuned to that, you can't expect that the next week they're going to be better again. It's never quite as simple as that.
And it'd be interesting. We were talking about Danny McGrath. It'd be interesting to see behind the scenes after that Bradford game how they responded. How did Danny Maguire respond? How did the players respond? Was it a hairdryer treatment, or was it just?
But the thing about that was they were a conversion away from taking it to golden point, even though they hadn't played well. It wasn't a disastrous. It looked from the outside. It's the big shock. A championship team have beaten a Super League. If you boiled it down, first 40 minutes they were awful.
Yeah.
They were lucky to be only 17-0 down. Bradford didn't make a mistake. The second half, they got themselves back to a point where. Yeah. It was an even contest.
Yeah, with the goal kick, they could have won it.
And the momentum that they had going into what would have been golden point extra time, they might even have won it, and then he would have been able to say we were horrible, but we won, and that's all that matters. I just think again, I
wonder also
there has to be an element of realism both within their owner, the supporter base, the coach.
Yeah, agreed.
Because their takeover hasn't gone through yet, has it?
No,
So
no.
they've so.
I don't know whether it's Danny Maguire obviously such a successful player in the Super League, whether it's hard for somebody who's had such success on the field and probably sees players that are not doing what he wants them to do, which is the nature of coaching, isn't it? Because that's what you're designed to do to try and improve players. That must be hard in a way for a coach like him.
Yeah, I think it's harder that he doesn't get. I mean, he gave a very telling interview in the lead up to the game about how hard they tried to sign Michalewski, and that the money that they'd offered him was actually more than Leeds. But he used the phrase, and he's absolutely right to use it, we're not an attractive proposition for players at the moment, and that's what we've got to make ourselves. Well, if there's a realism within the coaching staff that they can't get the squad together that they want, there has to be that same realism within the supporter base, which is not to say that this week when they go to Headingley and it's Danny's return and all, they may well win.
But you turn the clock back to 2017 when they got to the grand final. I don't know what their pay bill would have been at the time, but there'd have been other clubs on more money than that squad, I would imagine, because it was built over a few years, wasn't it? And that's kind of where they need to get back to. And the jungle then was rocking, wasn't it?
Yes. Just don't get disillusioned, Cass fans.
It's going to take time.
And don't get disillusioned, Danny.
Yeah.
Mark watched Hull FC versus Wigan. Wigan were clinical and dominant. Scored some great tries. FC lacked depth, which is obvious, not helped by the injury to Liggy Sale, which is not because he's out for a while, isn't he? Is he out for the season?
Out for the season.
He's out for the season.
But they've already got a potential replacement.
John's been on. Can you hear me, mother? Sandy Powell. So there you go.
Sandy Powell.
If you were there at the start of the programme, you've got that. Kevin asked Phil, which I think he meant Phil on the comments, but not you. Miller or Connor, when they're both fit. On your Brad Arthur now, you've signed your 10-year contract.
But the great thing is that's exactly the dilemma that Brad Arthur
places.
wants, because if Jake Connor is playing like he did this week and he does it next week and the week after, then when Miller's fit, he can't come in at fullback. Now, there's not to say there isn't a spot for Miller on the wing maybe, or on the bench, so that every eventuality is covered, but that's what you want. You don't need to make that decision now. What you do need is Jake Connor to play as well as that every week.
Brad Arthur's not been offered a 10-year contract.
No.
Where did that come from? But Edwin Apape has signed a 6-year contract at Lee.
Wow.
So we'll come back to Lee in a moment, because we haven't spoken about Warrington Catalans really, which is is it more about Catalans or Warrington? I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say, did you listen to Steve McNamara's interview at the end of the game? I thought that was a strange interview.
Confident. We're all right.
I was
We're
worried
gonna
at that
We're
point.
all right, like Neil Kinnock with 92. We're all right.
I just thought, I thought it was an interesting interview, because there aren't many post-match interviews that are interesting, let's face it.
True.
Well, it's not, is it? These say generic lines.
Well, that's what Carl Fitzpatrick said. He wants to coach us to argue with each other and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather hear less CEOs on podcasts, but that's another matter for another day.
I just thought, is that genuine? I'm sure it probably is in his head, but I only watched the second half, but it doesn't take a genius to work out they're not playing that well, are they? And then with the Sam Tompkins thing coming back injured again, and then the messing about with the squad, I'm just not quite sure what their direction is.
Again, I think they've got an owner that's very demanding, and I think you have to be seen to be saying those things because you're under pressure. I do think that Luke Keary is going to be a great addition to Super League, but not in week one. You talk to a lot of overseas players, and it isn't just relocating your family to another part of the world and getting used to that. Super League is very, very different to the NRL. The defences are not quite up in your face as much. The space that you've got might be a little bit more, but the ruck might be a little bit slower, and all those things you've got to adjust to. When you've played all your life as a pivot in the NRL, people don't know the angles to run off you. You don't know when to hit them or how to hit them. He is going to be a great player, but not this year. Artur Morgul, has been told he's going to be playing half-back with Keary. He's got the number 7 on his back, and he's playing full-back. Yeah. And it seems... I thought the saving grace for Catalan again was Ben Garcia, who was just absolutely unbelievably good as a leader. And I don't know, I didn't check how many tackles he made, but I'd be very surprised if it isn't high 50s. And they've got a work ethic, but they just cannot score. The creativity is just not there.
Watching a work in progress as well, of course, and I don't know how they... Well, most people are going to predict Wigan to win this week, aren't they? Regardless of where they are in, having lost the first week but won the second, they're a team who haven't had any major changes to their team over the off-season, so they are still as you were dominating Super League last year.
Nor really of Warrington, who've only brought in Dan Russell. I think the thing about Warrington, Lee and Hull KR is they've done exactly what you would want your team to do in the first 2 weeks of the season. They've just found a way to win. Nobody's going to remember in week 26, 27 how they won in the early weeks. And clearly you don't want to be in your best form in week 1 or 2. It is one of those competitions where you have to build it. It will take so much out of you. You'll have periods where there's a drop in form. There'll have periods where you've got injuries that you have to manage. To start the season in this weather, 2 out of 2, no matter how you do it, that's all you can ask. And I think that's what Warrington did. They did enough to win. They weren't convincing. It didn't matter. Lee have been fantastic in the first game. Did what they had to do against Huddersfield on Sunday in tricky conditions. Hull KR, won one game by 1 point, one game by 2 points. Doesn't matter. No.
And I think that's the difference between, which is probably what I was trying to articulate earlier on, between teams that have been successful in the last few years and probably those that haven't.
Yes.
All the effort that Casp put in didn't quite get the result in round 1, and I don't know whether that can. And then you go round 2, you lose again, and suddenly into round 3, if you lose again, and then suddenly you're starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with Catalan. I think that what Steve McNamara may have been saying is, don't heap pressure on me because it's coming. But lose again this week and maybe
they're away at Lee.
They're away at Lee, not easy, and then the following week they're back at home where they've got a very demanding crowd against Leeds, and they could be nil out of 4.
Very exciting. Remember something Darryl Powell said after the game on Thursday. Waitford are going to be at their best when the sun's out and on dry tracks. So looking forward to 1 week in June, maybe 2. So that's exciting. We didn't praise Saints enough because they were clinical as well, in the same way that, in a different way to Wigan perhaps, Harry Robertson, another exciting young player who scores tries. Jack Wellesby looked a lot better this week than he did against
He just seems
Salford.
to have his role this year. I think last year a lot was expected of him, a lot of injuries. He was playing in 2 or 3 different positions. He was supposedly holding the team together. He was out for a little while himself. It looked like it was quite an onerous task last year, whereas having Tristan Saylor there has sort of freed him up a little bit. I think Saylor's back heel kick was the piece of skill of the weekend.
Why was that not
Have you
everywhere
ever
within
seen
seconds?
that before?
No, but it's not permitted under the laws of the game.
Well, you were saying that. But why though?
Because a kick is in the laws of the game from knee to toe inclusive, but excluding the heel. I don't know why, but it isn't.
Changed the rule. It was brilliant.
I don't know why, but it isn't a kick, so therefore it has to be classified as a knock-on.
Might be in the NRL though. They might have different rules.
I don't know whether it relates to they used to when you played the ball near the line, you could kick it forward, couldn't it, and stuff. I don't know why it's not considered to be, but it's not. But yeah, I think he reminded me a little bit of a Bevan French style.
Yeah.
I think he could be quite special. I thought they played some quite attractive rugby, and they played with certainly confidence that the first 10-15 minutes they were pretty much unstoppable on their left edge.
The pack looked back to the kind of power that
I thought
he
Walmsley
didn't have.
played well.
And Parsi again made a big impact, and Delaney's. But those young kids were having to do too much last year. But if they can get the balance of the workload right, then they'll be much better.
And the big win that they had, I know they weren't playing the quality team that they would expect to, but it won't have done them any harm, will it? They played. What did they play in the cup? They played at the amateur team. Was it West Hull? I think.
Didn't concede a point. Didn't concede a point against Salford.
So on the league table it says they played Salford. It doesn't say they played Salford reserves. So. No. That'll please the Cass fan who complained that we didn't talk about the Cass game enough last week, so we talked about it plenty now. Just been saying Cass and Rugby Saints are great, yeah. But Sky loved, what's his name? The second rower, Simbiku, who was hard working.
He's a good player.
So that's the good news out of
But
Castle.
he's not used to playing at Super League week in, week out. So again, you don't want to, if you can, overexpose somebody like that. They've got to get used to the competition.
And as we know, it's all down to Lee Briers and Eamon O'Carroll. And Paul Wellens has nothing to do with anything that Saints are good at. So well done to them. And well done to Paul Wellens for just sitting there and looking good on the telly.
In fairness,
in the coach's box at Cass, which is not, it's very tight.
And I know you're being churlish, but
I know.
Two good signings on coaching staff, I think. There is what's his name? The French.
Laurent Fraisier.
Is he still there? No, he went. Yeah, I think being disrespectful to Laurent, but I think those are two people that have had success in the clubs they've been to.
In the specific area of expertise. So Lee on attack.
I think it's smart. It is smart recruitment, but I mean, there's no doubt. It's a fickle world, isn't it? I mean, St Helens fans weren't happy last year.
It's a fickle world from week to week.
Yeah, it is.
The fickle finger of fate is pointing at Huddersfield because they lost to Lee.
Again, credibly.
In the wind. I was watching, I was at work, so I had it on mute, so I didn't realise it was windy because I had no idea what was going on. So, But
Huddersfield were credible the week before as well. They've got injuries. There's always a team that starts the season with injuries. But I didn't think they were outplayed in either of the. Well, I only saw one of the games and the highlights of another one, and that is a credit again, I think, to what Luke Robinson's trying to build. There's a unity there.
They've lost Danny Richardson now because he's had to go back to Hull KR because they've got no half-backs.
It's been strange with loan deals, hasn't it? With
Ben Davis was. But surely Saints knew that they were playing Castleford in the second week.
Surely Ben Davis knew that they were playing Castleford.
The league table. I mean, I know the fixture list is sometimes we forget what's going on, but
I also don't get 2-week loans. I'm not sure that's fair on anybody. I think a loan period should be a month. Because again, Danny Richardson comes in, does the best he can against Warrington, and doesn't play again for Huddersfield.
How will Lee?
Looked okay. From what I saw,
Didn't see the game.
No, Phil was at Hunslet, so he didn't see it either. But I was only catching it in the corner of my eye between working properly. So
it's a big game for Huddersfield, though, isn't it? This week at home to Hull. Otherwise, they're 0 from 3, aren't they?
Yeah, they would earmark that as a potential winnable game.
And you certainly fancy Lee, as we mentioned, against Catalans. So
Tell you what, that whole Salford game might not be a bad game.
No,
depends what sort of Salford team.
Salford were quite rightly mentioning. Obviously, it's a very short turnaround. So, and they've got the first player who's been banned this year.
Yes,
Jake Shorrocks will not be
exciting
for the Brodie Croftons.
Yeah,
I've not seen it. Yeah,
he
got Simbin, didn't he?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say this year is the first 2 rounds. I've seen some head-high tackles.
And in the Challenge Cup before that as well.
This time last year would have been a red card. Have we pulled back on that?
I can't think. Because I've not watched every game, I'm not ducking the question.
No, I just think there's been some contact with the head.
I can't think of an incident, though, that would have been a red card last year and hasn't been. Because it would have been, I don't know. I can't think what the incidents.
Well, the play of the ball's got messier as well, or is that just people saying they're not as clean as they were?
Well, the philosophy's changed slightly in that they are. It was discussed in the round 1 game, the Wigan game and Lee, where I think people were very complimentary. I think you were on the podcast last week about Lee and Moore.
I thought it was brilliant.
What the referees are trying to do this year, probably perhaps more so, is where they can let the game flow, minor indiscretions they can manage.
Yeah. And mention it on the runs of the teams, which there's a bit more of that you can hear.
It's not a huge sea change, it's probably just a slight change in emphasis. But the difficulty comes is where you get mismatches. So the last 2 weeks I've reviewed Saints Salford and Cass Saints. And you inevitably on games like that you'll get a mismatch, so it then becomes a challenge. What do you step in on and what do you not? Because when you're scoring 80 odd points, you've just got to let the game flow. But on a 40 points to something game, you're in danger sometimes of a team trying to stranglehold another.
Yeah.
And that team, say and I'm not saying this didn't happen in the Cass Saints game, but where you're going at half time, for example, and a team is still in it, and actually probably shouldn't be in it because they've been allowed to stranglehold the ruck. That's not what it's about. It's about if the players will get on with it, let them get on with it, and if not, you have to intervene. So it's not a huge change.
And the conditions this time of year dictate the speed of the ruck a little bit as well, because players can't get their feet as easily. That I saw that yesterday at Hunslet.
So no, I don't think they're a mess.
No,
I think
no.
that, with
Just
anything,
it's what people say.
there are the odd rucks in games which are a mess, and they'll need to be picked up in review process. But overall, I think the speed of the rucks will be comparable with previous seasons.
I'm just very sad that Rowan Smith's not in the competition to see the proliferation of short dropouts that are failing and not failing.
But he was the man that did say Morgan Gannon would make a standoff, and he was very nearly proved right on Saturday.
Some people would say a stopped clock, he's right twice a day, but that they would be very unfair people. So that's not me, that's just people. Did we see Josh Drinkwater's conversion for Oldham at the weekend? I have not, Phil.
I have seen it on social media this
exciting?
afternoon. Yeah, well, again, considering the wind was blowing across the ground it was a touchline conversion, and he nailed it to draw the game.
But I tell you what, that was they nearly won then, Batley.
Yeah, they were a last second conversion away from winning.
Yeah,
what a ridiculous turnaround! Having Oldham thrashed York the week before, York only lose by a point at home to losing a game. I think they were 6-0 up in that one. It's only finished 7-6 anyway. So, and Oldham draw with Batley.
But not more importantly, they're absolutely praiseworthy. London beating Featherstone's got to be the shock result of.
Here's Dennis, because were they at Wimbledon yesterday? Was the game played at Wimbledon? He says Gary Hetherington was being shown around the stadium at Wimbledon yesterday. Maybe it was a doppelganger. Has he got?
No, he's on his way to Las Vegas, so I suspect he was stopping off on his way to Heathrow Airport.
It's not like there's two Donald Trumps or two Melania Trumps, rather. There's two Gary Hetherington. Well, there are two Gary Hetherington. Or there were two Gary Hetherington.
But I think that is why the Championship is such an intriguing division, and everybody has said this year it's going to be unpredictable, and within 2 weeks it's already been
some close scores, weren't they?
Halifax 24, Barrow 14, so Halifax now 2 from 2.
Which nobody had predicted before, with Kyle Eastman as a rookie coach.
And adding to that their performance in the Cup against Catalan when they nearly won.
Yeah.
Bradford win away at Hunslet. You were there. What was that like?
It was a game of two halves. Bradford
a first half team. Because against Castleford,
Bradford had it won at half time. They were 36 ahead. They lost the second half. Credit to Hunslet for hanging in there.
I'm going to assume that Bradford weren't minus 18 on the coupon, because you think they'd have won that by more.
I mean, it was a great afternoon out, because it was 1,400 people there in a stadium.
Cold. What does it hold? It can't hold much more than that.
At the front of the grandstand wasn't open for whatever reason, right. But a good atmosphere, and I think you could see why Bradford are heavily thought to be favourites, but they are power centre. When Hunslet started running the ball, trying to run the ball round them, it sort of worked in the second half. But the game was already lost.
But don't forget, if you are looking for AMG points, just make sure you put a post on where it's like a video of your coach and give them the thumbs up, and even if you've lost. London 14, Featherstone 12.
Fantastic result for London when you think that they bought
players.
But they bought 2 more loanees in just before the game. And that's got to be a credit to Mike Eccles to be able to integrate players at such short notice.
Could be the next Catalans coach. Just throw that name out. This could be anyone. Widnes 10, Sheffield 8. So Widnes are back. Our friend, the photographer, he'll be happy. Mentioned Oldham 18, Batley 18, and York 6, Toulouse 7. So you've got a draw, and then you've got 3 games which were decided by 2 points or less.
Can anybody tell me why we don't have Golden Point in the Championship? I know we've debated it before, but...
Oh, hang on. So now we've got another set of rules.
Yes. And whether you like Golden Point or not, I happen to. Why do you have it in one division and not the other? Or the other 2?
Carsten mentioned this earlier. York streamed their game yesterday, and another couple of clubs have done it as well. And he said, is there a strategy? And the answer is no, but I've been saying on this programme for ages, just do whatever you want. No one hold the rights, just do whatever you want. Do it.
But they didn't charge for it, did they? They just put it free on YouTube.
That doesn't make sense. But
I think part of the argument on Golden Point is it's designed for TV.
Yes.
So if somebody knows on another channel that somebody's gone to Golden Point, they'll switch over.
Well, I might have switched over to YouTube to watch York and Toulouse if I'd have known it was on, which I didn't.
That was the last
by the time I'd find it on the red button though on Sky, it'd be finished. The drop goal would have gone through.
You've got some tennis. You're watching bloody Who's these tennis players playing in front of no one in Saudi Arabia? League One, working in Cornwall did not happen because of weather.
Waterlogged pitch at work.
Yeah. Dewsbury 10, Crusaders 20.
That is a bit of a surprise.
It surprised me that score, because Dewsbury who did they beat the week before? Workington away, I think, didn't they? Or was it the week before
And
that?
I think they are expected to be among the favourites. That's a great result for Crusaders.
Goal 14, Hurricanes 16. That sounded like a good
I know
game.
somebody who went there who
Yeah,
said that
I saw
again,
his tweets.
Gould had the bulk of the play but just couldn't score. But Hurricanes now are not amongst the also.
No, very new.
No.
Did he do match ratings for the players? Out of 10.
I think he was there
Just as a spectator. Maybe it's just like an automatic reaction when you go to a game. You have to.
I got some pictures from it. The grandstand's been knocked down. At
The luxury grants at the Victoria Beckham Pleasure Garden.
the David Beckham Park.
Sticking with that one.
Victoria Pleasure Ground.
Good news for Abigail. Rochdale 44, Keighley 0.
Again, that's an astonishing result. Not because we want to take anything away from Rochdale, but I genuinely thought Keighley would be
Yeah, so did
not
I.
suffering results like that.
Social media was going off its down last night.
dear.
I had a quick look and I thought it's
it's
entirely
It's
predictable.
all
of
these
course.
flags in it, James. If they
Crisis.
didn't have these flags on your kit and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But that is a surprise result, the magnitude of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting to. I've not spoken to Ryan and Cowie, but at 16-0 at half time, so they weren't out of it at half time, were they? But not great because you'd expect Rochdale and Keighley to be.
And I genuinely do
Two of
think
the
this is a
top
more
sides.
competitive division this year. There's
I think
more
it will be.
fixtures, and you're not going to be able to go into.
Well, Gould are going to be quite strong out there. Midlands.
Yeah, I think Midlands look like the.
Yeah, Dewsbury, Crusaders, Swinton.
Scott Taylor said that Gull are going to play as they sing it, so they're going to be an exciting team to watch. And yes, Martin Kellner's Swinton, 16-10 winners over Whitehaven. So
Which reversed the Challenge Cup result between the two teams.
But I think you're right. It's probably got the makings of one of the most competitive seasons League One. And I know you kind of hear that every year with Championship, but certainly with League One, probably with the exception of Cornwall, I don't know where Newcastle are up to these days.
But that's less teams who are uncompetitive than we've had in the past.
Yeah.
is it the first round proper of the 1895 Cup this week?
It's
or
the
is it-
third round. Stop.
It's like on Going for Gold where they had the qualifying round before the first round proper. Henry Kelly should be.
God, that was a
announcing
good
this.
programme.
It was a good program, wasn't it?
What about the European version of it?
Well, I mean that's
Say what? It was the theme tune was as good as
Hans
any.
Zimmer.
Yeah.
The great flaw with Going for Gold, great program, but the fact that it was a European competition, but everything was in English, so a great advantage to any English people or Irish people. Everyone else, buggered, aren't you? They're not getting Flemish, are they? London Dewsbury in the 1895 Cup on Saturday,
Being
which has been played at
the
New
New
River,
River Stadium,
New River
home of
Stadium.
London Scholars, which again I think is good to be re-engaging fans who've lost their team.
Sunday, Batley Bradford,
Interesting.
Featherstone Keighley,
You'd
Sums
on
up.
the basis of this week, Featherstone will be looking for a reaction.
Gull Barra, Hunslet
You
Widnes,
wouldn't rule goal out of that.
Oldham
Hunslet.
Rochdale again,
Big local derby.
Sheffield Doncaster,
Big
Derby,
local derby.
York Halifax, not Derby.
No, but that would be an interesting
Yeah.
game as well.
So that's the 1895 Cup this week. Is that it? Have we spoken about everything? I think we have.
I think
We're excited,
if we
aren't we?
start as we finish. I mean, rugby league can be cynical people. It's in our DNA. But I genuinely can't find anybody that doesn't think Las Vegas is an exciting prospect. And we're not promising the earth might change or whatever. But I think what we're saying is it's just great to be elevated to where we all think this game should be. And people are talking about it who perhaps don't normally talk about it. It's one of the major broadsheet newspapers. I think it might be the Times are sending us a correspondent.
They know rugby league exists.
But I don't think they're there to report what happened, the mechanics of the
No.
game. I think they're there going, oh, here's a sport that's prepared to push the
It's an event,
envelope a
isn't it?
little bit.
It's an event.
Let's go and see what's happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And I do think our social media channels and where everybody gets their news from, you'll see it a lot this week. And we wouldn't get that if it was a normal round.
I think it's reflective of the start of the season. I think it's been a really positive start to the season. I know people were obviously talking about Salford, but even then, I'm not even convinced. Okay, it wasn't great, but it was a talking point, and actually getting people to talk about rugby league, whether it's good or bad.
It was an own goal from Salford.
Well, I do. I think I don't think they've won themselves any favours there.
But I
amongst
also
anybody.
think in a competition where over the last couple of years points difference has decided even whether you make the playoffs or the top four, that's a dangerous game to be playing in round one because you're not.
But
you're
there were
not
some
going to
great
get
talking
82
points from round one, and then even
Well,
into
the
round
1-0
two,
game.
you've got Wakefield back at home in Super League, etc.
I think that anybody who thought that the Wigan Lee opener wasn't the best opener we've had for many a year
was a great game.
Was missing the point.
It was a great game.
The intensity was amazing. The Michael Buffer being there, the whole 21,000, the biggest crowd we'd had for an opening night. All of that was a perfect celebration of 30 years of Super League, and it's what we do now at post Vegas. What's our next big event? Presumably is Magic, but part of the problem with that is, again, one of those fixtures is Leeds and Saints. They're playing each other in the cup, so that's at least 4 times that they're going to be playing each other this year. It could be 5.
Which reminds me, those TV picks, terrible. Wigan, Hull, Saints, Leeds, entirely boring, predictable fixtures to choose.
They're on the red button again.
Well,
it's not until the next round that they go on.
I know, but it feels like that's a round too late, really, for the competition to have any impact into the general consensus.
Especially when it's going to be mainly Super League teams playing each other, so there's going to be some big.
At least Salford Bradford might have been interesting.
Red button is there for people who like rugby league. It's not.
And the World Seniors Darts, which was on there this weekend.
Yeah. For the average Joe member of the public, they won't know it's on.
Luke was 30 years away from qualifying for the World Seniors Darts. The BBC podcast is finished, it seems. They haven't done one yet.
Oh, yeah.
You ran it, weren't you?
I was, yeah. I don't know.
With the amount of money they throw at crap celebrities doing podcasts about true crime or whatever, or nonsense.
Maybe they need Tanya Randall was presented it last year, wasn't she? So, I don't know. Must have cut it.
I mean, I shouldn't say that because obviously, it's competition for us, and but I feel like I need to kick the BBC. But
a bit like the question of sport, we went on that. That's been killed off.
We're still going.
5 Live podcasts. That's gone off.
Yeah, so it's
a matter of time.
Oh no!
The death knell on that bombshell.
On that bombshell, that's it.
On that bombshell, break open the match.
What are exactly? What are the odds that Peter V'landys in Vegas will announce the Ashes?
Good,
probably good. Better than Australia minus 28.
I don't think they will, because I think the NRL is very, very focused on giving the event primacy, so they won't want anything detracting from it. Don't expect the Ashes to be announced this week.
Peter, we need to sell tickets, please. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast. You behaved in the chat. You're much better than other people's audiences. We'll be back next Tuesday. I've got to do something on Monday, so I won't be here, but.
And we'll need to sleep, having been up all night watching Vegas.
So, special Tuesday edition of the podcast next week.
And if anybody's interested, all butter Scottish shortbread chocolate chunk rounds from Marks and Spencer.
Sure, Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Pancakes. Oh, no.
Bring your pancakes.
Yeah.
So join us where there'll be at least 2 tossers in the studio. Ta-ra!